So, hello everyone. So, in this video, I'm going to share with you a recent tutorial I developed on performing cluster analysis using k-means and hierarchical clustering algorithms with online API I developed, in R and R Shiny. Okay, so we'll be using a data set that is used to understand our customers or fans' attitude toward two primary sporting events. Let's say the first one be, let's say, the NASCAR uh, race. And the second one will be, let's say, our football event. Okay? So this is what we're doing for the next 10 to 15 minutes. So first, we are going to do some data generation or data simulation, which is an important skill for data professionals or data analysts. Okay. So second, we can do some k-means clustering. So what is k-means clustering? So basically, let's imagine you have 100 customers and you want to separate these 100 customers using an algorithm, and you decide, let's say, you want to run a campaign or you want to send, some direct mails. And maybe you don't have you don't have budget to send to all of them. And let's imagine you just need to send to 30 or 40 of these customers. And so how to decide? There are a couple of factors. First, maybe location. Second, maybe income level. Third, maybe, the most recent visit to your business. So, and then, maybe other factors you think you assume to be relevant. And then, let's say you can predefine the number of groups for this algorithm. Let's imagine you have two. It means, we want to have two groups. First group will be our primary target. Second group will be our second target. Okay. And then, let's say we can also use the hierarchical clustering algorithm to validate our results or our analysis. Let's imagine we want to do a similar analysis, and we try to identify the first 30 customers or 40 customers we need to send direct mails to. And, basic hierarchical clustering algorithm, we help you draw a tree diagram. And then you're going to look for natural breaks in a tree. And then you identify, let's say how many clusters we have, and, which group of customers do we need to prioritize. Okay. You can also decide which variables will be important based on your, you know, uh, resources. Okay. So next one. So we are going to learn how to interpret results. For example, uh, we can use, for us to do k-means algorithm, we can use Silhouette, score, Silhouette score, which ranges from -1 to 1. Uh, and then, let's say usually if it's 0.5, it means, in general, our cluster solution is probably good. Okay. So remember, this is for k-means. Okay. And then, let's say when you compare the k-means algorithm and, let's say a hierarchical clustering algorithm, you can suggest, okay, so Okay, do you get similar results or different results or, you know, uh, completely different results? And then, you also try to see, okay, which method performs better or more effect, which method is more effective in terms separating these observations. And then, let's say I have some references for you to see, okay, so how you can interpret the findings and results, maybe figures, uh, to a person who doesn't have background in these algorithms. Okay. So there's the academic article, there's also industrial, tutorial, and also technical overview. Okay. So imagine, so remember, there are no coding skills that are required because, for the data analysis step, you'll be running the algorithm using my Shiny app, and the algorithm is already built in, so you don't need to worry about writing any syntax or maybe a code to perform the cluster analysis. Okay, let's get started. So first, again, we do data generation, right? We come to this website, shinyapp.io. You say my name dot, and then free data generator. Okay. So let's imagine we are going to upload our data set. So which data set? Segmentation analysis underscore NCAA NASCAR. Oh. We have two columns and 10 different observations. Okay. And upload this data set. Make sure you download it from, the website and then upload. Okay. As you upload, usually, you can use a default option, but in case you want to do a minor change, let's say you want to do 60 observations, normal distribution, let's say variance will be 5%, okay, minimum variance, and we can generate the spreadsheet, okay. As you see here, we are gonna have 60 rows of new observation. We can download the data set. I see it's downloaded here. Open it. Let's see how many observations we have for us to perform this new analysis. Okay. Remember, you have to regenerate your data set. So you'll be using your own data set for this analysis. Okay. So you see, we have 60 observations and we still keep the variable names. Okay. Now imagine we are going to go to the second step. Second step, we are going to do some clustering and we copy and paste it here, the link, the HTML address. And then, you see here, we can actually use a preloaded data set, okay, for demonstration purposes. I just show you that preloaded data set for demonstration purposes, and we use our own the data set I just generated. I'm gonna use empty cars, okay, which are a popular data set available for our users. Let's load the data set. We have 32 rows, okay, 11 columns. As you see, first column, we have miles per gallon, and then we have number cylinders. Okay. Okay. So let's do some clustering. Let's say, we just do this scoring, right? We can also select the none. And then, let's say you can now run the clustering, but usually I choose the region dimensions. Okay. Dimension 1 and dimension 2. The first two dimensions. Let's say we just use the first two dimensions. And then, we run clustering. Okay. And then you see, we are going to see our plots by clicking, the tab here, clustering. So clustering plot, you see here, the first, the second cluster, third one, right? The green one. And let's say the third, the first one, third one, and the second one. You can also change to 4 clusters, but you have to just click run clustering again. Okay. Now you see here, imagine if you choose 4 clusters, a first cluster then we have the second cluster, then we have third cluster, and then we have the last cluster. Okay. And then you see here our metrics, usually, zero point 0.5 is a natural threshold. And it seems that, we are doing an okay job in terms differentiating these clusters. Okay. But you need to check the references and see what those articles are saying. Okay. And, and then, let's say you can also compare the method. As you see here, we also have the matrix for all of these clusters, okay? As you see, we can also compare these methods, and especially when you run, you know, the hierarchical clustering compare the methods. So here, how many clusters are you looking for? So there's a very intuitive method. So you will use the able plot, and basically we want to see a significant drop in terms of the slope of this line, okay, a curve. So you see from one class means in general, the whole data set is going to be just one whole cluster of observations. If it's 60, there'll be 60 observations. And then 2 clusters, and then 3 clusters, 4 clusters. I think, if you look at the significant change in terms of slope of this curve, it's going to be from 2 clusters to 3 clusters. Okay? So you can maximize, the differences between clusters. Okay? So that being said, now, this able plot gives us our suggestion. We need to use 2 clusters. Okay? We can also look at uh, slow weight scores as well. And so let's go back and change it to 2 clusters. Okay? So I run clustering again. As we go to the clustering solution. They see like a plotly dashboard. We can see the variations and everything. You see the first cluster, second cluster. Okay. Now let's come back to our notes, and you see our next step. We are going to do some tree diagrams, a hierarchical clustering. Okay. Okay. This is super easy and fun. Okay. See the second method in drop down menu. We are going to select hierarchical clustering. Okay. Now, imagine these dimensions will probably not matter, or these parameters. We just select hierarchical clustering, and then we run clustering, and we're going to see a dendrogram, a tree diagram underneath. Okay. And you see here, so remember to check my notes. We want to look for natural breaks in the tree. Let's look for these natural breaks. And see here, in general, we see, the giant cluster, which will represent the whole data set. Okay. But now imagine, so the first cluster and a second cluster. If we just want to use 2 cluster solution, then we have this blue tree diagram here, and also the red and green one combined. And then we can also think about, the 3 cluster solution, the blue one, red one, and green one. And then lastly, we can also think about, the 2 or 4 cluster solution, blue one, the second blue one, the red one, and green one. And then finally, you can look at your data table, right? So here it shows you the k-means clustering results, okay? K-means clustering results, okay? So, so I think that's again, so you can try other methods. and see, okay, so what is the difference between other type analysis, type analysis and your original analysis, right? So again, you can always try uh, different, methods to see, how well your analysis is and how to compare these different different methods. Okay. So I think that's it. And thank you for watching. And I hope you have a great day. Make sure, when it comes to the understanding the results, you want to check these online references. Okay. For example, this article it shares with you, what cluster analysis is and also what's useful for, you know, businesses. Okay. And finally, if you look at the end of the article, it also shows you how to interpret the metrics and the graphs. Okay. And the graphs. Thank you so much.